Welcome back to In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, connect us, and the magic we find along the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest has been part of some iconic productions such as Into the Woods, Big Fish, Spring Awakening, and is currently playing Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future, the musical, on Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Star of the Seas, which is super exciting. I'm very excited to announce Alexandria Orr as our next guest, and really happy to dive into all you've been up to, especially working on a cruise line and all the excitement that comes with, and challenges, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your earliest inspirations. What made you want to be a performer and get into this incredible world?
I started out in church choir, and from there, that's the gateway to exploring theater, and yeah, I fell in love with storytelling. I love to read, I love history, I love stories, so from there, musical theater was just a very natural thing to fall into, and yeah, I've just never been able to imagine myself doing anything else with my life, and it was just a very easy path to choose.
It's incredible that even on an early age, there can be some things that you just feel a pull towards. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if at that early age, were there any particular movies or even musicals or shows that really inspired you, and you're like, oh, I want to do that.
I grew up I, like, distinctly remember, like, the first, like, musical movie that was, like, drilled in my house. My grandparents loved The Sound of Music, classic Julie Andrews, you know? And my babysitter, also when I was younger, she was very into musical theater. My mom would take me to see her musicals, and I thought that was just the coolest thing, and I proceeded after her.
Yeah, it's incredible how sometimes also it could just be different people you meet in your life that can inspire you to pursue something that maybe you weren't sure was an option before. And then suddenly you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, maybe I could actually do this.
Right, I know. I've suddenly chosen my addiction for the rest of my life, you know?
Do you think there was a particular moment in performing in those early days where you were like, this is where I'm meant to be?
I don't I think I got my first lead when I was in the 8th grade. I was playing Polly in Crazy for You. Or no, I was Jasmine in Aladdin Jr.
Oh,
first. And that was like 6th grade. I was 12 years old. And I was like, wait, I might actually be really good at this. I might be okay. I might have something here. And it's always come so naturally to me, and I'm such a perfectionist. Well, for anything to come naturally that I don't have to not put a lot of effort into, but I don't have to think so hard and stress so much about, because it's just, "Oh, yeah, it's just how it is." I have to work for what I have, and I have worked for what I have now. But, yeah, it was just a very natural thing to me to do.
what's amazing too is it seems like once you get into that swing and you feel that natural pull towards it, it's kind of like you can't imagine ever doing anything else. It you fit into it so easily where it's just like, oh yeah, this is what I should be doing. Like there's
Yeah,
always that like pull and love for it. So it's amazing that even from an early age you kind of knew where your heart lay and then you just pursued that.
exactly. Yeah, and I feel like growing up and, like, getting more serious in musical theater, I was told so many times, like, "If you can see yourself doing any other job, go do that job. Don't do this job." And I feel like there's such a stigma around that because that's simply not true. Our whole job is to imagine ourselves doing another like, being someone else doing something else. So I think that's so silly to tell people, "No, if you can't imagine yourself doing anything else, then don't do this job." That's the whole point. That's all we do. You know, we can have more than one passion in our lives.
And what's incredible is also in this field, there's so many different little parts of it that kind of can appeal to different parts of you. There's the acting, there's the dancing, there's the singing, and it just awakens different parts of you. You can try things out and different things you can pour yourself into, which is incredible, I think, for a musical, especially. So, how did your journey get to, I guess, first of all, getting to be part of musicals and auditioning, and what was that like? And first, actually getting roles and booked, but then also getting to work on a cruise line because that's a whole different kind of experience.
It certainly is. It's insane. I took the traditional route of, musicals through middle school, high school, and then I went to college for it. Got my BFA in musical theater at Temple University. Very proud, go Owls. Temple University is in Philadelphia, which is like a 2-hour bus ride from New York. So I would skip class to go audition my senior year. And that's how I found the audition for to do my first ship, Icon of the Seas. And they do The Wizard of Oz. And they do a second production, which is always an original production that Royal Caribbean has written. And they did The Effectors, which is like their superhero musical. And so I skipped class one day to go do that audition and do that callback. And I booked and I had like the best year ever doing that contract. And then this audition came up and I got it, which is insane to me still. I'm in rehearsals for it right now. And it's just, oh, such a blessing. It's insane.
That's incredible because it seems like a lot of times these things work out when you take a chance. And it's like you put yourself out there, you took the chance, you put your name on the list, you walk into that room, and that's all you really needed to do. And then yeah, it sounds like it's such a energetic and kind of electric and busy schedule between rehearsing, then performing, and being on the ship. So you said you had a year contract. What was that like being on the ship? And was it only performing in the shows, or were you part of like other entertainment stuff on the ship?
Yeah, Royal for the Icon class ship, we do, the 2 shows, and that's about 7 shows a week, and then we do, 2 parades in the week as well, which is just on their, like, promenade, and we just walk back and forth strutting our stuff and our costumes, and it's a very easy 15 minutes just for the guests. It's very personal up front. It's very fun. It's great.
That's awesome. And I can
Yeah.
imagine being part of an ensemble in such a kind of closed setting because it's a ship as opposed to like being on land and in a city can bring a lot of closeness, a lot of interactivity, and could also maybe affect the dynamics on stage and in the performances. So, what is that like working with people that you're around all the time, basically living with?
Yep, that is something I had to learn how to navigate. Because on land, I was, like, I graduated from university and started rehearsals 2 weeks later. So, on land, I was very close with my class that I graduated with, and I was so used to seeing them every single day, but at the end of the day, you could go your separate ways, you had other friends in different majors, and you could take a break. But with ships, you have your cast and you do have the other people that work on the ship, but if there's any kind of drama, a little bit of anything, you get tired of people, because it happens. You like your best friend, some days you're just like, I can't, like I need a break from my AirPods in, not just go do my job and go back to bed? So that was a very interesting challenge to navigate, finding places and times to be on your own when you need it and take that time for yourself is I found to be very, very important for me personally.
Yeah, and it seems like that could be really important in terms of dealing with a musical schedule in general, but then especially on a ship when you don't have a lot of space to go. It's just on the ship. You're constantly going to run into people that you know and work with and are around. And I'm sure like the space to yourself isn't that big. It's probably a small space. So you're kind of limited in what you can do. And then you said there's 7 shows a week that you're performing in. So what is that schedule like?
That schedule, it does depend on the day. It's either 2 shows a day or 1 show a day, and we on the Icon ship, we had, like, 1 day off in the week, which was great. We were usually in port, go to the beach, it's chill. But on my next ship, Star of the Seas, as far as I'm aware right now with the schedule, we don't really have a day off. So we do our 7 shows, 2 shows or 1 show in a day, however that adds up. And honestly, I thought that having like a 7-show schedule like that would be a lot more taxing, and it's taxing. It's a lot. But you go in and you do your warm up and you do your show, and that's not really, it doesn't take up your entire day. Like you can have your morning and you can have your evening still to gear up to it, warm up, and also to cool down at the end of the night. So it's not like a 9 to 5 where like that's your whole day. You're done, you know?
And I think that's probably super important for having such a busy schedule. You need that time to kind of relax. And that's also probably the benefit of being on a ship because there's at least the scenery, the cool air, you can relax a little bit. But I know it's all about balance because it's fitting it into those moments where sometimes maybe you just want to sleep.
Yep. Honestly, yeah. And what I've learned is that, like, talking to friends I have, like, who do, like, tours versus cruise ships and all those kinds of things, it's a bigger deal to call out of a show on a cruise ship than it is on a tour. You know, on a cruise ship, there's obviously the same processes happen where your swings have to come in, all of that. But for us to like call out, like if I was just exhausted, like I need a mental health day, whatever, I would have to go through a bit of a process in order to like sign off duty from work because we're in the Navy and it's a bit more work. So it's just easier, honestly, at a certain point, just to power through and do the show.
I can imagine there's probably like an unspoken pressure there to like go on with the show and then you can relax. And doing
Yeah,
it so often
honestly,
too
yeah.
can be probably both beneficial in some ways in terms of you get into the swing of it, you know it back and forth. So even if you're not having a great day, you're like, all right, I can do it. But on the other hand, I'm sure it's exhausting too.
100%. I actually my contract with ICOM, my first contract was 11 months on board, and then towards the end of that 11 months, the girl who came in to do the replacement for my track, she had an injury, and so the casting asked me like, "Can you stay for another 2 weeks?" I said, "Sure, no problem. Totally." I ended up staying for 6 months. So that ended up being a year and a half on the ship, and I got 2 weeks off in that time to go home.
At least you got the 2 weeks. But I can imagine that could be not only exhausting, but also on the other hand, good practice. Like things change and things get
Yeah.
prolonged and it feels like a lot of times people's experiences in different shows, and especially whether it's a tour or a cruise line, feels like it's really putting you through kind of like a training for whatever is going to be next in your career, in your life. Because if you can survive that, if you can excel in that, like you can handle anything. I give it
Yeah.
to you and your cast because I know it's a lot of work.
It is. You have to be so, so adaptable, and within that second cast, we had 9 replacements, so we were just constantly in reblocks, and it was just chaos for about 6 months, but the cast was so talented and so level-headed that we got through it. And I did think at a certain point, I'm like, "Am I gonna be, like, really, really sick of this show? Like, will my performance quality change?" Because I've done it so many times at that point. But I learned a lot about consistency. I'd never, like, done a show as consistently as that. My high school, college productions were just 2, 3-week runs tops, you know? And that was that was it and done. You rehearsed for 2, 3 months, and you did your 2 or 3 weeks of shows, and you were done. It's a skill set. Consistency is a skill set.
I can imagine because I'm sure there's even maybe a temptation to like, should I switch this up a little? Should I change it? And see what
Mhm.
works, what doesn't. And that's hard because sometimes, yeah, you want to be consistent with what you've done before, but maybe, you want to try something new because you've been doing it for months on end.
Right, because you don't wanna become complacent and like check out and then risk any kind of injury, whatever, because you're not paying attention, because you are just not, you start to like not be so engaged anymore at a certain point. So you have to work really hard to find new things to discover and explore in order to keep things up, but without changing the track and getting in trouble, you know?
And yeah, and that could definitely be difficult, especially when doing the shows so often, like in a short span of time, and keeping up that consistency. And that's your story with being on the ship. There's a lot of successes there and things kind of working out when things change. And I'm wondering, just like everyone deals with moments of things that don't work out or closed doors or a no or things you hope for that didn't quite pan out but maybe led somewhere else, how do you deal with those moments when maybe you're disappointed about an answer for something or you don't hear back?
Yeah, absolutely. Auditioned to do so I started in cast 2. I was in the second cast of The Wizard of Oz, and I really loved the show, I loved the ship, I loved the people, such a great environment for me, and I really wanted to skip cast 3 and go to cast 4, whenever those rehearsals started. So I auditioned. I thought, oh, I'm gonna get this. Like they already know I know the track. It's gonna be so easy. And I didn't get it. I was so sad because I had so many good friends going to that cast. And I was like, what am I gonna do? What do I thought this was it for me. I thought I was booked for the next year. But if I had gotten that, I wouldn't have been able to do the replacement that I did right after that, and I wouldn't have been able to do this job now. So that just proves that every disappointment leads to a victory, you know?
Which
It's
is
all for a
beautiful
reason.
because, yeah, I hear that a lot, that sometimes things don't work out for a reason. It's kind of a redirection to somewhere else. And maybe something you didn't expect or think of because maybe you thought it was out of reach. And yet it's bringing you even further than you thought you can go, which it seems like you're on the track of. So that's really exciting. And I'm wondering what advice you would give to others who are pursuing a dream and maybe overwhelmed by the size of it or everything they have to go through for it, or are afraid of those disappointments and rejections.
Oh, man. I'm trying to think, what would I, like, have told myself, like, a year ago when I was going through it, trying to figure out what I was gonna do after Wizard of Oz. I don't know, I think I would say it's all for a reason, and you this is so basic, but you just have to put yourself out there. When I auditioned for this, I submitted virtually, and, oh, I hate self-taping. I don't like it at all. I am such a perfectionist, I can't watch myself, but you have to. And I was self-taping for it. I was like, "Oh, this is so bad. I'm just like, why am I even doing this? What I'm like, there's no point. I don't even like how it looks." And I submitted it and through callbacks got it. So you have to put in the work, you have to put in the time, and it will just like statistically, it will naturally come eventually.
Agreed. And I think sometimes we could be our own worst critic and we forget to be our own best friend, which seems like it's really important in this field. And I can imagine also having other friends who are creatives and performers could be super beneficial. So what is that experience like, especially I guess working in such a close proximity with so many others?
Yeah, oh, it's so exciting being with, like, some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. So many talented dancers, so many talented singers. It's so inspirational, honestly, seeing all these talents and drawing off of each other and just getting to have fun. We're all doing our dream job. Like, what could possibly be wrong with the world? What could be wrong with life? And it's very easy to support each other in that. And everyone has their down days and some people do have attitudes and they go live in their world. But yeah, on our down days it's so easy to just be there for each other because we all understand we're all in the same boat, literally, you know? And yeah, it's just this is just such I'm so grateful for this community. I love artists. It's the best.
Too. And one of my other guests said this, and I've repeated it to a lot of other guests, but they said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go
Mm.
with others.
Yep.
And I feel like that's so true. Sometimes, especially I think in any kind of creative field, it feels like a very lonely journey because it's so personal, and yet there are so many other people on that personal journey that we can lean on, that we can call on, that we can talk to, because you're not alone and you're not the only one with this dream, and you can always support and help each other and give each other advice. And that's part
Yeah.
of the magic, I think, like learning to embrace that community and other people like you and having the same dream. And so I'm curious, where do you find magic, whether it's with working with others or in the process of rehearsal, or I know auditioning could be nerve wracking, but do you find any magic there, or even just when you're finally in front of an audience?
Oh, man. The magic is absolutely in the first dress run for me. That changes everything about your show for me. Before that, it's all awesome, like, putting the whole like, right now we're slowly putting together one of our shows for the ship, before we start rehearsals for Back to the Future, and as we're putting it together and starting to run things, like, you see the picture, you see the great picture now. We've just been working on these little puzzle pieces of it, and now we're forming it, and it's beautiful. But once you get on stage and you have the tech and you have the costume and the shoes, the hair, everything that just changes everything. You're fully that person now. Because physically before that, I'm just Alex singing these songs and pretending to be this person. But yeah, the first dress run for me is the most magical.
I can imagine that feeling very electric, where it feels like, okay, this is real now. Like now we're
Mhm.
fully in it. Is the other show you're doing an original show for the ship?
It is, yes. Our amazing one of our amazing writers, Lauren Van Brank, he's directing. He also had a hand in creating, the superhero musical I did on Icon of the Seas, so we'd worked together before. And yeah, it's this little musical called Create that they've made that's leaning into, AI, basically. And there's a little bot that we are teaching about the beauty of humanity. And that's not all just like numbers and statistics and asking for all the basic answers that we all look for in ChatGPT, but there's all these things to life that the audience can sit and watch and appreciate in light of the rise of AI.
That's incredible. Yeah, that sounds really
Yeah.
interesting because it's so timely and perfect, especially in such a creative way of telling a story like that. Because it always seems like with AI, it's kind of the antithesis of anything creative. And so to kind of mesh them together in this way,
Mhm.
especially a musical, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me. I'd heard like bits and pieces about it before I started it, but seeing the scale of it is actually so, so cool. It's so exciting to be a part of.
And in terms of that process, what do you think really happens first? Is it the music and the singing, learning the songs, or is it some dancing, or it same like same time?
I would say it's very much a theatrical concert in a way where the singers, for the most part, are on the sides belting our hearts out. And we have our amazing dancers just kicking their faces, doing these incredible contemporary routines, just supporting them. And yeah, we all do a little bit of everything, but yes, it's mostly the singers sing and the dancers dance.
That's going to be a great show. And the fact that you're doing it also back to back with Back to the Future is really
Yeah.
incredible. It's such an iconic movie, and the musical has been incredible. So, what has that been experience? That experience been like playing Jennifer and kind of rehearsing? Well, you haven't started rehearsals for that just yet, but you're going
Not
to.
yet. We finish our rehearsals for Create in a little less than 2 weeks now, and we'll do our office run where we present it to the casting team, and then we will begin rehearsals for Back to the Future.
Super exciting. What do you think you're most
Yeah.
excited for in terms of that show?
Ugh, the car, for sure. Because Royal does the full, like, out into the audience, it flies, it, like, skids onto the stage at the beginning of the show, and, ugh, the tech Royal Caribbean's tech is just beyond anything I've ever seen in my life. It's so cool.
Yeah, I was looking up little snippets of how they do it on their ship, and I was like, this is just like on Broadway. Like
This is
there's no
Broadway. Yeah.
difference. It's incredible.
We call it
I
Broadway
really
at
feel
sea.
like these
Yeah.
productions have just gone up and up and up, and it's on the same level between the
Yes.
tech, the performances, like everyone involved. It really is just incredible, and it's a beautiful way to experience musical theater that before it wasn't on this level before. Like you think 20 years ago, and it was nothing like this, and this is amazing. So I
Yeah,
can
it's
imagine
such
all
an
the work
honor
that's
to
going
be
to
a
go
part
into
of.
that.
Yeah, right? I know, it's absolutely incredible.
Have you gotten to see the show when it was on Broadway?
I did not. Where was I when the show was on Broadway? I think I was I think I was on the ship actually, so that
Yeah,
wasn't an
probably.
option.
Yeah, and
So
unfortunately, it didn't last as long as it should have. But so I'm very glad it
right.
found a second life on the ship because
I
more people can see
know.
it now.
Exactly, so exciting.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun playing the role and being part of that. It's just there's so many moving elements, and yeah, it sounds like between that and doing Create, you're gonna have a lot of fun. Is it gonna be a similar schedule with like 7 shows a week? Wow.
Mhm. It's gonna be
So you're
great.
gonna be
I'm so
kept
excited.
busy for sure.
I sure will. I'm gonna be a very, very busy girl. I think it's gonna be quite a bit harder than my experience was with Wizard of Oz and Effectors, but I think it's gonna be such a fun challenge. I'm so, so excited.
Yeah, and I think your experience on the other ship and doing those shows also help prepare you for this. Like I said, I think everything that comes your way kind of prepares you for what's next. And I did see a little bit of like images and stuff from the Effectors. So I'm curious about that show and how much fun that looked like because the costumes look incredible and just seemed like a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
it's beyond fierce. They started with there are 3 effectors that they do throughout the ships. Effectors 1 and 2 are they have a plot, but it's basically there are 4 superheroes and they each have their big number and they fight the bad guys and we get to the end and there's of course the bad guy loses and we celebrate. And that's the 45-minute show. The production I did was Effectors 3. It was the first Effectors 3 of Cast 2, obviously. And that one was like the origin story, how like the heroes got their powers and how they came together. And I played a character called Pixel, and she was this fierce diva. And I sang Demi Lovato's Confident 2 times
Nice.
a week, and it was just the best like 3 minutes of my life. And it was crazy because I'd never played like a sassy diva role like that. I'd always, always, always been typecasted as the princess, the sweet soprano ingenue, which trust me, I love. That's like my style. So when I was cast as Pixel, that was insane to me because I was like, I've never ever given that energy in my life. I've never performed like that in my life. So that was a very interesting challenge for me at the very beginning of rehearsals, trying to find my confidence in myself and really own my stage in such a different way than the classical soprano ingenue typically does.
You know what's interesting about that too is I've always heard that the kindest people make the best characters like that. And for some reason
Uh,
that's just how it is. So it makes sense
I believe
if you're
it.
usually used to being a certain type of personality, and then yeah, it for some reason it works out. But I think what's amazing about what you said is how it instilled confidence in you. And so what is that experience like of like having to be this confident, like sassy persona and get on stage and be confident, and then having to like get off stage and be yourself and figuring out how to put that in your own life.
It just I feel like it did come home with me a bit. I feel like we're always told don't bring your characters home with you. But it was just so natural to bring that positive part of her into my life of just owning myself and owning my space around me and being more confident in what I do and how I perform. I feel like looking back on like old self tapes and videos, I really did lean into the like shy soprano, sweet soprano, like loveliness of all those roles and let that be what I was. And taking on like a little bit of that character was very educational and it's really, really benefited me and helped me to grow so much as a performer.
It really makes me believe that sometimes those roles come as like it was meant to be for your
Yeah,
journey and your personal growth, which is incredible. And
100%.
I think, like you said, so many elements of your life kind of influence where you are now and what you're doing. Was there ever a moment where someone said a comment that really built you up and really helped inspire you to pursue what you're doing, or even the opposite? If there was a moment where you felt like, oh, and it somehow lit a fire under you and made you like go for it anyway.
Ooh, my high school my first 2 years of high school, I went to a school that had, like, a pretty big emphasis on the arts in some way. My musical theater teacher was not the most supportive of me, for whatever his reasons were, and I was at the point of, like, I was just so sad. I was so sad because I just was not growing in any way and really making me question, like, why I was doing this in the first place. It just wasn't fun to me anymore. So that I reached a low point, and my parents were the ones to, like, help remind me of why I do what I do, and they pushed me to find more fun in it, and I started doing more community theater, and I left that high school, and then I found the joy of it again, and I'm just so blessed to have such supportive, amazing parents, and yeah, they're the reason that I still do what I do now, I think.
That's beautiful, and I'm really happy that you had them and you kept pursuing it because clearly you're doing incredible things. You are
Yeah.
where you're meant to be, and you're going to be doing even more incredible things. So I'm proud of you for not letting it stop you. And I think it's goes to show anyone who's listening or watching that don't let those moments stop you. Don't let it break you down. Like keep going, get up again, because you're gonna find where
Mhm.
you're meant to be, and you're gonna find your people. I think that's biggest thing too. I think it's beautiful that you're on a ship where you're surrounded by like minds and other creatives and talented people because you found your safe space, which is
Yeah.
so important in this field.
Exactly. People need people. We cannot, as much as you said, as much as it's a personal journey, we cannot do it by ourselves. We need, if your parents are there for you, you need them, you need your friends, you need everyone around you, significant others. Yeah, it's not something you can do alone at all.
And you've had so many of these experiences now on being on a ship and living on it and performing. And you mentioned Wizard of Oz. So, what was that experience like, especially such an iconic movie and musical and just property in general, where everyone knows the story, everyone knows the songs?
Exactly. And our version of Wizard of Oz is like the traditional Wizard of Oz that you would typically see, but bringing it to life and trying to make it new, like, how the team tried to make it new was it was just so exciting. It was so fun to be a part of, and I was in the ensemble of that, and had such a blast because you go from being, like, a munchkin in Munchkinland and, like, being super quirky and fun, then you're an Aussian, you're very sophisticated. And the costumes are absolutely insane. And there's a number that was originally cut from the movie called the Jitterbug, and that was kept in our production, and I learned how to do aerial. So that was a new skill I got to pick up, and it was incredible, and it was such a fun experience.
That's another amazing moment where now you've like added to your resume of skills, which is incredible to think about because it's not something you probably ever expected or even thought of.
Nope, never in my life, never, never. I always had such a great appreciation for it, but when we came into rehearsals and they said, "Okay, we're gonna test you 3 girls and see, like, where your strengths are and see which 2 of you are gonna fly in this number." I was like, "Fly? What is she talking about?" And we flew.
That sounds like a lot of fun too. A little scary, but a lot of fun, especially on a ship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, in my in one of my callbacks for Wizard of Oz, I was asked if I had any aerial experience, and in my head, I was thinking, "Oh, for because at the time I was in the callbacks for Dorothy, and I thought, "Oh, yeah, Dorothy just flies on the bed." I'll say, "Yeah, no, I don't have any aerial experience, but I have no fear of heights. It's cool. It's something I've always wanted to do." I have a very great fear of heights. So, showing up to rehearsals and finding out that I'm gonna be dropping headfirst from the ceiling, what made me rethink lying in an audition ever again.
It seems like a lot of times though that's what gets you the role. You just be, can you horseback ride?
Right.
Yeah, I can do it. It's fine. Yeah.
Exactly, just twist the truth a little bit. I ended up loving it in the end, but at the beginning, I was kicking myself. I was like, "You shouldn't have lied, you shouldn't have lied, always tell the truth." But now I love it, and there is no flying like that on Star of the Seas, and I'm actually so sad there's no
Oh
opportunity to
wow.
fly because the car takes up most of
Right.
the flying tech that we need.
It's amazing because it seems like then that anxiety right beforehand is what like a lot of people experience, but then you actually doing it and you're like, oh, actually, I love this. Like this is great. Why was I anxious about this?
Yeah, exactly. We had a very supportive and safe technical team that taught us everything we needed to know, and the rigging team on board was very well educated, very well trained, and there was never ever a moment that I didn't feel safe doing it.
Which is very important, I think, with any production, especially
Mhm.
when you're going to be doing so often, like every week.
Yeah, yeah, very easy to get lazy with it, and 'cause we have to check our equipment but before every single show, before we go fly it. So it's very, very easy to be like, "Yeah, yeah, it looks the same, it's fine, it's good, let's go do the show," and something could be wrong. So it's very, very important that we keep,
Yeah.
like I said, consistent,
Yeah,
you
give it
know?
up for that crew, helping to keep everyone safe and everyone doing their job to check everything. I can
Amen to
imagine
that.
that was a lot of fun of an experience just between all the aerial stuff and just performing that show in general. But with all the shows you've done, I'm wondering what has been your favorite experience in general so far.
Ooh. So far, professionally, I have to say Icon of the Seas, obviously. I'm sure it will be Star of the Seas after this. But I think my overall favorite production I've ever done was Into the Woods in university. It was, I played Cinderella, and it was just, it was such a fun like, who doesn't wanna be a princess, man? Who doesn't wanna wear the beautiful gown and lose the slipper and go tumbling down the stairs? It was just such a soprano ingenue moment, I loved it.
I could imagine that experience as you're describing it just made you fall in love with what you're doing all over again.
Yep. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we need those moments just to remind us of why we're doing what we're doing. Because especially, it sounds like you've had such beautiful productions and great teams around you. And that's not always the case. I mean, I hear of sometimes where, yeah, you know, you're going to rub shoulders with some difficult people or people who don't really want you there or people who
Mhm.
they just want you to go do the thing and leave. They don't really want to hear you give input or talk. And it's so important to have those kind of people around you in those productions that really value you as a person and what you're contributing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about the opportunity. Any opportunity provided to you to say yes, all of that. That's how I feel like I gained so much training and experience in university. Any opportunity for anything, I just said yes to. Any, like, acting class that had needed, like, someone to act in a scene, directing scene, yeah, anything like that, I always said yes to, and I gained so much experience, made so many connections that way, and from that, it was noted that I would take on any opportunity, that I worked very hard, and that was how more opportunities came. Opportunity is opportunity, you know?
Yep. I gotta say that I think 2026 should be the year of just saying yes to things and jumping
Yeah.
in. It's super important.
Mhm. Exactly. That's all you have to do, and it all adds up. It all at the beginning, it may feel like, "Oh, this, like, small thing isn't really paying me," or, "They're not paying me at all," but just saying yes and slowly adding up all those little things leads eventually to one great thing that made it all worth it.
Absolutely. And people remember you and they'll know, oh, they work hard, they're good at what they
Mhm.
do, they're willing to play, and they may call you back for something else that you didn't think of before. And I'm sure you have your own ideas in your head of
Exactly.
different
Yeah.
dream roles you would like to have or productions you want to be part of. So I'm curious, what is your dream role, either a role or a production you want to be part of?
Ugh. I feel like it's so basic to say, but I would do anything to play Eliza Schuyler in Hamilton.
It's a good one. It's a really good one.
It's a
And
good one, it's a great one, it's the ultimate.
yeah, and I feel like you're putting in the work. Like you're gonna get there because you're training so hard and doing so many things and keeping with a crazy schedule. So I think feel like you're training yourself to prepare for that.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really hoping that, like I said, all these opportunities are just helping me grow a bit more to eventually get to that point of, like, having the opportunity just to audition for them, just get in the room would be beyond for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Hamilton is such a big show and has inspired so many people. As well as like a lot of the other productions you've been part of. So I'm wondering what other shows have inspired you in terms of, I guess, how your love for performing and being part of shows, especially as you're doing it yourself. What has kept you like, oh, this is incredible, or maybe I want to be part of this someday, or do this kind of music?
Yeah. I mean, as I've mentioned, yeah, Into the Woods made me find a lot of, like, magic in playing a role like that, and I do think I learned so much about teamwork in my experience on Icon. and how important we all are to each other and how we need each other in this community. And that, yeah, I didn't, I learned that I really enjoy a good pop rock musical. Before that, I can't say I was the biggest fan. I appreciated it, but The Effectors was a pop rock musical, and I'd never performed like that before. I was very lucky to have a voice teacher in college that motivated me to learn how to do pop rock singing, which is a completely different technique to traditional musical theater singing. And it's just I have such a different appreciation, and I find so much more joy in performing pop rock musicals now.
I can imagine, and that sounds like very common with other performers I've talked to who are like, "Oh, this wasn't my thing," or "I wasn't so sure about this," and then I did it myself, and then I felt differently about it. And it
Yeah.
just seems like you said, just saying yes to things sometimes will you'll surprise yourself. And that makes me curious about, is there anything about yourself that has surprised you that you've learned as you've done different performances and grown?
I've found that I'm tougher than I think I am. I feel like I sometimes I feel like I'm such a crybaby about things, and I don't feel like I have the toughest skin in this industry, which I know is so important because of all the rejection. And I take a lot of things personally. Not a lot of things, but yes, it's hard not to take things personally at some point, depending on who you're working with. I did a play my junior year of college that was 3 hours long, and I never left the stage, and I narrated the entirety of it, and if I wasn't actively in a scene, so I was speaking for 3 hours, essentially, 3 hours of dialogue, and on top of that, I was doing my required auditions for the next semester's musicals, and I was doing all of my classes, and I was auditioning for summer stock. And looking back on it, I don't know how I did all of that at the same time, getting off book in class and rehearsals for other things and extracurriculars, all of that. And looking back on it now, I see like how much tougher I am than I think sometimes. And yeah, I it motivates me to push myself harder in the times that I'm feeling low and to not not wanting to oh, I don't know how to say it, and not wanting to, like, keep pushing through, and because sometimes it's just very taxing, but I think back on a time when I should have been absolutely drained and absolutely struggling, and I was thriving somehow. So that's very motivational to me.
Yeah, I think it's amazing in the moment you don't realize how much you're doing. And then you look back and you're
Mhm.
like, wait, I did do a lot. Or when you start telling it to someone, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess I did do all that stuff. And I don't know how I did it.
Exactly. Yeah, I like, truly, I don't know how I did that back then. And I think sometimes I'm like, could I ever, like, do that again? Like, something to that caliber of just being constantly engaged, constantly busy, constantly thinking, no downtime whatsoever. And I realized, like, no, I did it once, I can do it again.
I think especially now. I think you've grown even more, you've had more experience. I think now you're even capable of probably more than you think you are now. And I feel like that lesson of, oh, I'm tougher than I think is a lesson that maybe
Yeah.
we all keep learning over and over. We're like, okay, we're this stuff now. And we're like, actually, no, wait, maybe we're this stuff. And it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
And in the span of performing and being part of this kind of beautiful, incredible field of arts, how do you hope to create magic for other people?
I I hope to keep doing it through performing. I hope to keep moving people and being that girl that like, that the young people look at that I used to be and think like, "Wow, like, if she can do it, I can do it." My sister told me something really motivational once. It was before I had to go do one of my parades on the cruise. I was just I was just having a rough week. I was just very tired, run down, and I was talking to her on the phone. I was like, "Oh, just tell me one reason why I should go do this right now," just as a joke. And she told me to imagine that there was a version of me in the audience at every age. At the young age, I was wanting to do that at the older age of looking back and thinking, "Oh man, I wish I could do that one more time." Because there's one person that in the audience having that experience that younger you had and older you will have one day of appreciating what you do. And that perked me right up. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go give the best performance of my life on that promenade. All right." And so, yeah, I think about that a lot.
I think that's really beautiful advice. I mean, I just you talking about it, I was feeling sentimental. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, keeping that in mind is super important. We forget sometimes, especially when we're our own worst critic, that there's a little version of us that had this dream or whatever we're doing or pursuing that we are actually making very proud. And we should be a
Yeah,
little more proud of ourselves. So
exactly.
that's incredible to have that support system and that reminder. Which makes
Mhm.
me curious too. How often do you get to connect? Do you have Wi-Fi on the ship for yourself? Do you have to pay for it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, we get 2 free hours of well, first of all, we do get free texting throughout the whole week. That's totally fine, so we can keep in touch with family, friends. But we get 2 free hours of Wi-Fi a week for making calls or for doing our nightly scrolls on TikTok. And after that, you do have to pay. We pay for packages after that to get more Wi-Fi for the week.
Yeah, thankfully, because I know how important it could be to like check in at home, see what's going on, and also just have that support system. Because sometimes you need it outside of the bubble you're in, which is also just super important when you're on a ship.
Yeah, seriously. I went from calling my mom like multiple times in a week to check in with her to just texting her and then calling her once a week when I was in port and trying to save up my minutes in case I ever needed them for an emergency. And it's just funny. It was great to like disconnect from my phone in that way. That was awesome. I I did miss my nightly lay in bed and scroll for like 3 hours.
Was there a particular port that you really enjoyed more than others when you would stop?
Ooh, I My favorite beach port is St. Thomas. We go over to this little island nearby called Water Island, and it was just the coolest beach. But my all-time favorite port is San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's just this beautiful cultural town that we port right in. You step off the ship and you're in the town. And yeah, it's just beautiful because every other port we go to, you go to the beach and that's about all you can really do. There's other activities, but you go to the beach. That's what everyone wants to do. So it's cool to get off and explore something a little more cultural, a little more walkable. And yeah, that was great. That's my favorite port.
Can imagine needing that too, just to walk around, stretch your legs a little bit after being in the same space all the time. So that could be really
Exactly.
important for you.
It
now,
sure is.
now you're practicing and rehearsing to get on the ship again. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that. And is there anything else you're working on, or just your focus right now is these two shows, like getting ready for it?
My focus right now is on the shows. There's not a whole lot of time or energy for anything
Imagine, yeah.
else. They keep us pretty busy during the day here. And yeah, honestly, artistically, I feel pretty fulfilled in that in what they keep have us doing here. So this will be my main focus and my main priority for the next. We have like a month and a half left of rehearsals left before we get on the ship and we do our two little less than 2 months of install, and then we'll be set.
Incredible. So when do you leave port, and what are like the stops along the way?
Yeah, we'll get on the ship about mid-March, and it's a 7-day cruise, and we stop in, I believe, Cozumel, Mexico, Roatan, Honduras. Um, there's another Mexico. There's another Mexico, St. Thomas and St. Martin. I do love St. Martin. St. Martin's beautiful.
That sounds like it's going to be an incredible time with all those stops. So I'm really excited for you. On top of the excitement of these two shows, which both sound incredible. So I know
Right?
it's going to be a beautiful experience for you. And what do you think you're most excited about it in terms of the experience, like in general?
Ugh, I think I'm just so excited to perform something different. I loved doing The Wizard of Oz and The Effectors. I had such a great routine there, and I learned so much from it. And there was never a point that I was like, "I'm sick of this. I don't wanna do this anymore." I truly, truly enjoyed it, but performing over 300 shows in a year, year and a half makes you very excited to go work on something else and learn something new, and I haven't stretched my rehearsal muscle in a very, very long time, like the adaptable, on the fly, learning everything so quick. I haven't done that in so long, and it's just so refreshing and it's so fun.
I can imagine you're slipping into it kind of like a muscle memory of like, oh,
Mhm.
oh, right, right, this is how I do this, is, and kind of both physically and maybe mentally too, just getting into that swing of things. So
Yeah,
I'm very excited for you and everything that you're doing. I know you're going to be super busy in getting ready. So I wanted to thank you just so much for being on because I know how busy it's keeping you. And I'm just very excited for everything that you've got going on. You are definitely a magic maker. So thank you for being part of the podcast. And we're going to be cheering you on. I'm dropping your links below so people could follow you, see where you're up to. But yeah, very excited for you to be part of these performances.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I just thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting and this is so fun to do. And honestly, as insane as my schedule is it's so nice to meet you and speak with you and do something a little different and talk about
Same for
why we
me.
make the magic.
Exactly. And you're always welcome back on. When you're back on land, we could talk about what your experience was like this time around and on the ship. But yeah, I'm excited for all the magic that you're a part of and creating for others. And everyone out there, if you're listening, go out there and make some magic. See you next
You
time.
better.